is Thursday. Had a real delay getting on this morning. So if you're watching live, we apologize for that. The world of the computers. Beep, boop, beep, bump, bump, meep, merp. That was my impression of a computer.
It's pretty good, actually. Sounded like the one we had working here about 10 minutes ago.
Good God. But no fault of DKI. I can assure you of that.
DKI Canada is the greatest business in the world.
In the world. We are, ironically, broadcasting from the DKI studios here in downtown Toronto, 234 King Street East in downtown Toronto, out of the Pacific Junction Hotel. It'll be an interesting show today. We'll see how long we go. We are lazy. Very lazy.
Half an hour show.
Yeah. I get complaints. Oh, I see only 57 minutes today. Don't hurt yourself, fellas. By the way, that's from my son.
He's not joking either.
Oh, really? 56 minutes? Big day of lifting? Today, as the Roy Halladay story continues in a way that's probably very uncomfortable for a lot of people, certainly with the TMZ video out of TMZ Sports, that's what they're calling themselves, but the eyewitness of what happened moments before the plane went down has caused a lot of controversy, and if you don't think so, south of the border, it's gotten relatively ugly. And so just to kind of get a step back on Roy Halladay, and not necessarily just that issue alone, our good friend Barry Davis, his podcast, Out of the Park, going to join us in just a couple of minutes here. I was going to say in a half hour, more like 5 minutes. Get him out of the green room. So we will do that this morning. Also, as always, Thursday, Victor Newman, Passionate Picks, as we get ready for some CFL playoffs and NCAA football. And, of course, tomorrow, all your NFL picks that you will need, the Dave Bastel foreplay, Sexy Picks of Gold Sex, and for the NHL, Russell Graham's Happy Endings. How are you doing on those happy endings, by the way? And you know the happy endings I'm talking about, not the National Geographic ones.
A little
so-so?
A little so-so. The first time I was 2 for 3, and then the last couple weeks I think I've only hit 1.
Yeah, that's
not great.
Are you trying your best though?
I'm trying.
Yeah, you're trying your best.
Well, as long as he's trying his best.
Okay, we're allowed to play this music today.
Oh, absolutely.
The Russell music, because simply last night, Russell's been taking some specific heat from someone, David Bastel. Some texts when Frederick Anderson has not played so well.
I was text-free last night.
Text-free, yeah, you were.
Text-free. And I was at the game, too.
You were at the game?
Yeah, Coach Frank and I went to the game. Yeah.
Very fancy.
Yeah, it was very fancy. Golds.
Who got? Oh, he must have got those.
That guy is gold. That's what he is.
Yeah, he's mint.
He's mint.
Yeah, you're mint. And so, courtesy and property of the National Hockey League. Here I'm saying that, National Hockey League? Property of the National Hockey League.
NHL.
Yeah, and courtesy of our friends at Sportsnet, Rogers Sportsnet.
Oh, good friends.
Here is what Frederick Anderson did last night, and it was a gooder.
He scored his last goal in the first game of the year. Puck bounces down. Moved up ahead, right in front. Oh, great chance for Matt Cullen. Send it cross. Big wind up and a fire from Spurgeon. Big rebound comes out to Foligno. He shoots one. That was blocked. Marlowe up ahead. Hyman in over the blue line. Hyman dropped the shoulder. Looks for the trailer. Got it in front. Scores!
Marlowe, who actually gave the puck away to set up the wild chance, ends up dropping back in the slot. Hyman with a real nice play at the turnback. And great stop and start by Marlowe to get away from the defense and the forward of the seam.
Oh, look what happens there when the goaltender plays well. Isn't that what happens, Russell? Is that what you're saying? That's what you were going to say, right?
Good saves lead to good opportunities.
Look at that guy.
What do you have to say there, Dave Bastel, to that?
Well, let me just go over some stats for you.
Oh, no.
Minnesota Wild are 27th overall in offensive opportunities created throughout a hockey game. And let's not forget there's just a little over 30 teams in the league. So when you're 27th, that's not very good. Power play percentage is around 20th, which is in the bottom third of the NHL. Goals, they're mid-pack at best. This is a weak hockey club that's missing 3 key players, a goaltender that doesn't seem to be on his game like he has in the past, because we're big Devin Dubnyk fans.
Yes, we are. Dubny's a good friend.
But Devin Dubnyk has not had a very good season to start off, and quite frankly, in their middle of Eastern Canada road trip, playing a lot of back-to-back games. They have another one tonight in Montreal, and it was a tough spot for them on the schedule. So kudos to the Leafs for that win. Way to go.
I don't think that was an apology or support of Russell Graham's favorite team and goaltender. It's one of those, I think, kind of empty glass half empty recounts of a Leaf win. The one thing, obviously, that was of significance, and again, we're going to talk to Barry Dave in just a few seconds, really now.
Yep.
Roy Halladay, they did have a moment, and they did a tribute at the ACC before the game started. Very moving, once again, property of the National Hockey League and courtesy of our friends at Rogers Sportsnet.
And Halladay starts out his major league career by striking out Randy Whit.
Randa takes strike 3.
And the pinch hitter, Bobby Higginson, has ruined the no-hitter with a home run to left field.
The fans up out of their seats. The pitch is swinging, a ground ball out to second. Hudson to first. Halladay's got number 22. Halladay just showed about as much emotion as we've ever seen him show.
Here's the pitch from Doc, and he got him. Strikeout number 13. 132 pitches. Here's the latest. Roy Halladay, a complete game victory over the Angels. Masterful effort tonight from Roy Halladay, who completes his 7th game. This will do it. 20 victories for Roy Halladay. As Derek Jeter said, he's the best in the business. 1-2 on A-Rod, who is A-gone. And Roy Halladay has hit the Yankees.
Ladies and gentlemen, we are deeply saddened by the sudden loss of former Toronto Blue Jays pitcher Roy Halladay.
Hey.
Roy tragically passed away yesterday at the young age of 40. The 8-time All-Star was
from last night. Sorry to cut in on that. We go to our good friend Barry Davis. That, of course, last night once again from the ACC. Barry, how you doing this morning?
Hey, Mike. Just I'll tell you, still trying to process everything, and it's been a crazy 48 hours. And I've been pretty much nonstop busy talking about Roy Halladay, either doing interviews like this one or having people on my show. And maybe that's why I haven't had a chance to let it all sink in, and maybe that's a good thing because it's still a little bit surreal to really, put the reality to it.
It's a difficult situation in that I think that, when a loss of life happens, I mean, it's tragic nonetheless, especially at the age of 40. But when you're a pitcher of his stature, a quote-unquote celebrity, it gets that much bigger. But I think for people in that community in Florida, you saw from Pasco County, the sheriff had a tough time getting through the press conference. It just goes back to, I guess, really how people felt about him. And so we hear things about hardworking, we hear things about humility, and we hear things about being a great family man. So when you talked to him, when was that? July? Was that the last time you talked to him?
Yeah, when he was in town to go into the Canadian Baseball Hall of Fame.
So to you, and let's just say that this tragedy doesn't happen. What are the kinds of words? What are the adjectives you use for Roy Halladay?
Well, there were a lot of interesting words, and the funny thing is, Mike, in the weeks, probably months prior to this happening, whenever I'd have a former Blue Jay pitcher on my show, I'd always ask him about Roy Halladay. I'd always ask him, what can you say about Roy? And they always talked about just how focused he was, how determined he was, how dedicated he was to being the best at what he could do. He was always the first one to arrive at the ballpark. He was always the last one to leave. And that started in spring training. He would be the first one at the spring training facility long before anybody had to report. He was that locked into what he did. And guys would come there thinking that they had a pretty good regimen. They knew what was going on. They knew what they had to do to play at the highest level. And then they'd watch Roy, and they'd watch his routine every day, and they went, oh, okay, I guess I'm not even close to what I think I need to be. So there was so much of that going on. And, yes, he could be very intimidating to people that didn't know him, including some of his teammates. There were guys that, were literally afraid to approach him because they didn't know what they were going to get in return. But once people got to know him and they understood that he had very particular rules about when he is in his zone, when he's in his workplace, he needs to be left alone. And a lot of times that goes for catchers as well. I mean, most catchers will tell you that they've caught Roy Halladay. You do not walk to the mound in the middle of the game unless there's a really good reason for you to go out there. So that's just the way Roy was.
It's funny you say that, Barry, and good to talk to you this morning. Thanks for joining us. The intimidation part about Roy Halladay, it wasn't like he was this mean bear-like figure, like a wrestler you wouldn't want to approach. He just had that stare, and I remember covering him as well. And the first couple times, meeting him, you when you talk to a new player or a player that you're covering for a first time, you kind of get a read on how you're going to handle him in the future. And with Roy, I don't know if you felt the same way for the first couple of interviews with him. I couldn't get a read on him. I don't know if he was mad or if he was just focused on just answering the questions and moving on. But it's almost like, just like when he was on the mound, Barry, he would look through batters. He would look at what he was actually focused on. And I almost felt that way as a member of the media talking to him for the first couple times. And, you got to be careful with what you say because you're almost scared you're saying the wrong thing at the wrong time.
Well, I can remember how many post-game, scrums where, Roy would have been the pitcher that started that game, and everyone would be gathered around him at his locker, and whoever was in media relations would say, okay, go ahead. And it'd be, who's going to ask the first question? Who's going to ask the first question? So there was always that. And I want to share a story with you guys that I've talked about a little bit over the last couple of days. And to me, this really goes to show what Roy was like as far as dealing with him, even as a member of the media. And this goes back to the spring of 2009. It was his last year as a Toronto Blue Jay, and we knew that it was likely going to be his last year. So I was at Sportsnet, and we had arranged to do a feature sit-down interview with him that day. Now, I was under the impression we were going to do it at the end of the workout. So, I figured, okay, I've got time, but I'm going to get to the ballpark really early and get set up because if Roy Halladay happens to say at 8:30 in the morning, hey, you know what, I've got a couple minutes, let's do it now, I want to be ready and not miss my spot. So we were all set up really early in the morning, ready to go. And around 8:15, I see him walking across the back of one of the fields heading towards the clubhouse. And I thought, oh, maybe he's finished his workout early. So as he walked past me, I said, good morning, Doc. And he kind of looked up at me and just kept walking. And I said, hey, are we still on for? And he cut me off, turned around, looked at me and said, excuse me, I'm working. And he walked away. And I thought, oh, God, there goes my interview. It's not going to happen now. But I said, okay, you know what? I'll wait it out. And most of the players were gone by 11:30. There was a couple guys left. And meanwhile, here it is, 2 o'clock. And I said to my camera guy, okay, we'll give it till 2:30. If he's not here by then, I'm going to assume he went out a back door or he's just not going to do it.
Yeah. So
maybe around 2:20, I see his head poke out of the clubhouse door. He looks at me, he says, are you ready to do this? I went, oh, okay, let's get the cameras rolling. And I said, I'm sorry for what happened. I wasn't sure if you were still going to do the interview. And he said, well, what are you talking about? I said, well, because I bothered you on the field today. I must have ticked you off. He goes, oh, don't worry about that. He goes, I'm really sorry about that. You have to just understand that, when I'm on a field, that's my workspace, and I can't be bothered. And then he sat down with me and gave me just an amazing interview. And I realized at that time, okay, I get it now. That's how you deal with Roy Halladay.
It's wiring, Barry. As you know, you've dealt with a lot of different kinds of athletes, and they all work slightly different. And you have to understand, that wiring in order to make it work, which is why I think the job that you have in doing that, and it's a difficult job because you have to figure out, and Dave's done it for I don't know how many sports, but you've done it for both baseball and hockey. You have to understand the animal that you're dealing with and how that wiring works in order to have a relationship. Otherwise, you get those awkward scenarios where some of these guys who cover the team, beat writers, they don't want to talk to you. They just because either you haven't figured it out or they're just the type of person that doesn't want you to figure it out. And I would think that's a very difficult job. But at the end of the day, you look back at what he's done, obviously here in Toronto, but what he went on with the Phillies. If we're looking at in terms, and I know it's a discussion, in terms of best pitchers that we've had on this team. Very often that Dave Stieb name is obviously going to come up. But I look at the guys who Dave Stieb played with, the surrounding support staff. If we take that into account, who is the best pitcher the Blue Jays ever had?
In my mind, and again, I'm not just saying this because of the tragic events, but I've always been the believer that Roy Halladay was that guy because he was the lone bright spot on a terrible team year after year after year. They would lose, 4 games in a row, but you always knew that they wouldn't lose 5 in a row because, Doc is starting today, so, the losing streak is going to end here today. And he did it with such consistency, and he did it also knowing that after a hugely successful debut to his career, where, he came within 1 out of a no-hitter in his second major league start, he struggled miserably. He got sent down to low A ball. They completely rebuilt him as a pitcher. And he came back and did what he did. And of course, we look at the most success he ever had was when he left the Jays, become a member of the Phillies. But just to get a grip on how much he was loved here in this city and really in the country, guys, he asked to be traded from the Toronto Blue Jays. Okay, Vince Carter asked to be traded from the Toronto Raptors, and we've seen hockey players being asked to be traded. When they come back, they hear it. There might be a few cheers, but everyone understood, and they completely backed Roy Halladay with, yeah, you know what, you deserve to play for a winner. And when he came back to Toronto, I swear that there was not a single boo. Every person in that sold-out Rogers Center were on their feet, giving him a standing ovation. I remember that the first game back, he didn't start the game, but he went and handed the lineup card to the umpire for the Phillies, and the place went absolutely nuts. You don't see that. You do not see a guy that wanted to be traded come back with his new team and get received the way he did.
Barry, I hate to bring this up because of what's happened in the last couple of days, but what goes through your mind when you hear some of the garbage that has come out of the Boston radio station, which I will not acknowledge right now? I will not acknowledge who the hosts are, but I'm sure people out there listening to the show, watching the show, know of this because they have made a mark in a very negative way. What kind of garbage, what goes through your mind when you hear this sort of garbage going on, especially with what happened in the last 48 hours?
Well, my first thought is no one ever deserves to die. You never say that a person deserves the fate they got. Listen, we all get into our cars every day, and we assume probably a higher risk in our cars than Roy Halladay did in that plane. We don't know all the details. We have no idea exactly what was happening. And from what I have read, those planes are meant to fly very low above the water. That's exactly what they do. We don't know the details. There was no Mayday call or 911. There's no voice box in the plane. I mean, for all we know, something could have happened to him in the plane. He could have had a heart attack in the plane. You don't know, right? So for anyone to go on and say such nasty things and basically just to get attention and the attention he's been getting. I mean, look how many times people have reposted the crap that these guys said. And it's disgusting. You know what I mean? Listen, I'm all for some good jokes and sometimes poor taste jokes and having fun, but my God, I mean, there's 2 teenage boys that just lost their father, and this guy saying he deserved what he got. I mean, it's
well, it's trying to make a name for themselves, and that by definition is what a shock jock does. And it's one man's opinion against probably I don't know how much that would be against it, but it's also the timing, and it's about a sense of decorum, in which he has none of that. And I just think that when you start using words, as you said, like someone deserves to die, you're just trying to make a name for yourselves. And as Dave said, you don't even really acknowledge who that person was at the station they were at. I'm just want to go a little further, though, in terms of knowing his family situation a little bit. Now, we know, there's his wife, and he's got 2 boys that I think they're, as you said, they're both teenaged guys, probably 8th, 9th grade in there somewhere, probably. Losing their father like that, knowing the kind of great family man and dad that he was, I can only imagine how difficult. And I asked Warren Saku about this I guess it was yesterday, Dave, about that Hall of Fame induction. I think of all the things that are usually magical about that time. In Cooperstown, I think it's going to be, that's a rough day, and I just don't know how they're going to get through it, because that's going to be tough for everybody.
It is really going to be tough. And, I asked Roy about it when I had him on this summer. I mean, first of all, he was absolutely, floored and blown away by being nominated in the Canadian Baseball Hall of Fame because this was always his second home. He never left because he didn't like Toronto. He left because he wanted to win a championship. So the Hall of Fame was something he knew that he wasn't going to be on the ballot until 2019, but he was really excited about, the prospect of going there. I would imagine he would put on a Blue Jay cap for that. But for his family now, and like I said, when they were here in the summer, they turned it into a family vacation. And, I had a chance to speak to his older son, Braden, and the way he spoke of his dad then, like his dad was his hero. And I have a teenage son myself, and teenage boys don't refer to their dads as heroes. Maybe they do when they get older, but as teenagers, dads are awkward. So the fact that he thought that way about his dad really tells you just what he was.
Well, I have to admit, my friend, you've had kind of rough couple of months here between your relevance to the Blue Jays and those players, including Doc Halladay. You were also talking about Tom Petty. We didn't get a chance to talk about that. And, of course, We Ain't Petty is the name of your band. You still continue to do gigs. In fact, how many days after did you have that first gig after Tom passed? It was pretty quick.
Oh, man. You know what? We booked the gig the day before he died, as crazy as that was. And it was probably just 7 or 8 days after he passed away, we did our first show, and it was tough. And I've had people come up to me over the last 24 hours and say, "How can all these people that never met Roy Halladay be so sad and so shocked and so depressed? I don't get it. They don't even know him." And then finally, it clicked into me, and it was, you know what? I know exactly how they feel because that's the way I felt about Tom Petty. I never met Tom Petty, but I always felt like I knew him because so much of my time, so much of, days when I was not feeling great, Tom Petty was the thing that would kind of cheer me up and make me feel like the world is right. Baseball fans, sports fans in general, I mean, man, they set their lives to watching that game. They buy tickets, they buy posters, they buy bobbleheads because, these are their heroes. And even though they've never met him personally, they see him, they follow the career, and in many ways they do feel like they've known him. So for people that have never met him personally, I totally can understand how they feel like they've lost a friend or a loved one.
Well, it's that emotional connection, Barry, and that's what makes those people very special. And, hey, thank you so much for joining us. By the way, if you can send me the link on that messenger doodad, whatever you call that.
Yes.
Now I'm sounding like old Stephen Rapp.
Yeah, you do sound like old Stephen Rapp.
Send me the link.
You don't do the Twitter?
Yeah,
I can send it to you on the Twitter.
I can do the tweets. You have the twatter? I'll send you something on twatter. Send me.
You know what they say about the internet? It's a fad.
yeah. The whole highway. Where's the highway?
It's a path.
Send me the link.
What you're saying is you'd like a link for the tribute show that we did?
Yes, that and the actual. Now you sending out the Out of the Park with the show you did with Roy.
I have that, and also I just did a tribute show that went up last night.
Oh, okay.
Where we talked to a number of his teammates. Casey Jansen, Jesse Litch, Ricky Romero, and Buck Martinez all talked and shared their memories of him.
Well,
we also had a little bit of the interview I did with Roy as well.
Okay, send me that because I want to tweet that out because obviously you're a good friend and you do a great job with Maddie as well. So we want to get out there today. And thanks so much for joining us, my friend. It's always a pleasure to talk with you.
All right, guys. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Barry.
That is Barry Davis, our good friend. His podcast is called Out of the Park, and you will be able to hear later on today, those conversations that he had with Roy Halladay. And getting back to, I think, what is, again, very much a battleground south of the border, and it is based on the TMZ Sports, that is the branch of it, who somehow got, I guess you want to call it an eyewitness account. It's as close as they've got, Dave, and it's a bunch of real Florida dudes. I mean, if the language is Florida-like, and so as they're seeing this, they're brosives, they're brosives, and they see this this little plane, which again, it's the creator and architect of it has also passed away in a crash in that thing.
It's so eerie to hear that. I didn't know that. I didn't know that.
I said, the more you find out about this thing, the scarier it gets. But as Barry said, as David said, regardless of what we think of that, that doesn't mean necessarily that you would go on the airwaves and say that someone is deserved of death.
Yeah.
I mean, and again, if he's making a name for himself, then whatever it is. He's working in Boston. It's a big market. He's probably known for saying those kinds of things. But it's just, think of the family. Think of those boys. And maybe you don't. I mean, maybe that's the bottom line.
That is the bottom line.
But that's what the controversy is. So there are those saying, well, is there blame on his behalf? But you just don't know. And regardless, the comments coming out south of the border are pretty hard to hear. And it's got to be absolutely devastating for the family. So that's where, if you haven't seen it, and you may not want to. And again, if you are going to watch it, I put a link out to where it is a couple of days ago just to show you. If it's out there and you do want to see it, you see basically the path of what the plane is doing at the time. Then there's a huge break, and they're literally, if not the first ones there, they're like the second ones there of the wreckage. But right now, as they are looking into sort of the details of what has happened since that time, it's now one of those issues where the National Transport Safety Board investigator, this is someone named Noreen Price, said with the high energy impact, both the flight data recorders were recovered, even though the plane didn't have a voice recorder. So there is going to be that record of the data recorder of what that plane was doing before it went down. Is that going to make people feel better? I doubt it. I mean, I seriously doubt it. I mean, do you really need to know about malfunction or whatever beyond just the loss of life? I suppose maybe some do, but it is not his first time flying. He's had, since 2013, logged about 700 hours of flight time before Tuesday. It was near Tampa, and I think you'd mentioned that the other day. It's
Yes.
sort of near the Tampa-St. Pete's area. So the full investigation could take up to 2 years.
Unreal. 2
years. So if that's of importance, I suppose, but I would just say that, the inventor of this A5 that they talk about, the Icon A5, it killed both the plane's chief designer and test pilot. And I think, Dave, as you said, the reaction to that is horrifying.
Big
Horrifying.
time. Yeah, you sit there and it's like the guy that actually invented it died in it. It's I don't know. I look at it and it looks like an oversized drone. It doesn't look like somebody, a human being, is supposed to be in there. I'm not, I have nothing to do with this plane. I don't, I've never been in one. I don't know any, but just the logistics of hearing it and seeing it and because there's pictures. Roy on his Twitter account loves this thing.
Yeah.
He has taken massive amounts of pictures.
As a guy, I'm lying to tell you, and there's two things, and I think Dave and my reaction is almost the same. When you see the commercial for it, we played it yesterday, what it's able to do and how it looks like the coolest thing of all time.
It does.
It's
really
like,
does.
oh my God, this thing is awesome.
It's a real video game.
Yes, it truly is. It's exactly what it looks like. As Dave said, an oversized drone. And if someone said, would you like to fly it? No.
I'm
No.
okay.
No.
Like for example, bungee jumping is supposed to be very safe, but would I ever do that? No, because there could be that time where the rope snaps
See,
or
but
something. Like it's not.
You and I are so similar, though.
The bang isn't
Yeah.
worth the buck.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
And the thing is, once you have kids, and once you're tied into, for instance, the existence that Dave and I have, even professionally, we're tied to each other. So if, let's say this thing takes off and we do great, which it will, thanks to you, but when it gets bigger, all of a sudden Dave hears that I'm going to do, hey, Dave, I thought I'd go bungee jumping tomorrow. I know what Dave's going to say. No, you're not. No, you're not.
It might be something else. But
You could do a lot of things, but you're not doing something where
some language.
yeah. And I think that's kind of how we are a little bit. And I decided that years ago because bungee jumping was one of those things I wanted to do. I was at one of the radio stations where there was the fan 590 in Toronto at the time. I also was doing a comedy service, which just sort of got me to where I did. There was a thing called Headline Comedy. And I realized that entire studio and then my family based everything on what I do and how I talk. And I decided a long time ago that it just find other ways. And I did.
Yeah.
And it's called drinking. It's having bottles of wine. It's having Jamesons. It's having double ryes and a blender.
There you go.
That's my danger. It's like,
blenders are great.
Ooh, you're not going to have that with absinthe, are you, Mike? Well, you never know, Dave. And everyone's fine with that. But again, these are the choices that you make as an adult. And obviously, Roy had made one based on what he felt was okay in that plane.
Yeah, when Roy Halladay went into that plane on that morning, I guess, or early afternoon, his intentions weren't to get killed in an accident. That's his intentions were to go in a plane, do his thing, land it, and then whatever he had planned later on that afternoon. That's what it was. And
it's still a tragedy. It's still a tragedy,
It is.
regardless of what side of the fence that you feel one way or the other. But there's still that sadness. There's still that family. There's still those two boys who remain behind. And I think that's what is so heavy and hard. And as you heard Barry Davis, I'll be honest, off the top, I'm going, I wonder if he's going to make it through that conversation when we first talked to him, because that emotion comes right back to the top, once again, to a guy that he'd spoken to many, many times. We're going to come back on the other side. We'll probably talk maybe a little football. But what I thought was interesting is because the website, so rawmike.richards.com, we now have Russell, how far have we got with some of the archives on exactly what things are, like how to find it? We're up to we're on episode 120. Is it 120 today?
Today's episode 118.
It was 118.
Yeah.
Is it? I thought it was more than that. Are you sure about that?
Or 119 actually. 119.
Thanks, official librarian.
Holy smokes. Got the Fred Anderson of librarians over here.
So if they go back to it, are we halfway through at least correctly labeling it and having the appropriate pictures?
Yeah, I think about halfway.
I think we're about halfway. I think we're in there somewhere close to it. But in there is also the archives of some of the little fake little parody movies I did a long time ago that we want to get to again. We want to do more of these things. The Alex Lifeson thing all of a sudden seemingly has crept back up again. And what it was a spoof of the Ryder Cup. Who made the long putt? That crazy long putt? Justin Leonard.
Yeah.
Justin Leonard makes that long putt, and then as soon as he does, girlfriends, I think vagrants, janitors, I don't know, greenskeepers, everyone just runs on the green, and Jose Maria Thobel is supposed to make a putt. They just decimate his line.
Yes.
No one cares.
No.
They run all over it.
That
And, of course,
was
the Americans win
crazy.
back when the Americans did win.
Yeah.
And that was a big moment. So
that doesn't happen often, because since
No,
that time,
no,
the Americans
no.
have done
They do nothing.
nothing.
They do nothing. So we thought it'd be fun at that time. Can Jose Maria Thobel have a tournament where he can win it all back? So we had a lot of celebrities show up in this thing. A lot of things happened. Even Ron McLean. It was a real fun piece to do, and it looks like a lot of people found it. If you hadn't, and it's on, once again, rawmikerichards.com. If you go into the archives, you'll be able to see this awesome piece of work.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to sunny La Quinta, California, site of the first ever Jose Maria Olazabal versus the world. Can Olazabal bring back class and dignity to the game? Here's my colleague, Ron McLean.
He'll bring that to the event today, and we're hoping that after some of the trials and tribulations suffered in the Ryder Cup, that he can pull it together and put forth another fantastic effort.
Let's go right to the first tee in Olazabal. And a rough start for the Spaniard.
Karen, you just saw Jose on the last hole. What happened?
You know, I don't know if I want to talk about it. He was really upset. He actually brushed by me, and he was just furious.
Don't blame me, buddy.
And now Olazabal will try to get back on track on a beautiful par 3.
Yeah, he threw his club at me and he went off in the woods that way, spewing Hispanic profanities all the way. It's just something else.
And now Olazabal facing more adversity on 14. Oh my. Olazabal, look at the anger in his face. Oh! Now let's go down to Steve Melnick. Steve?
You have had a brush with Jose?
Yeah, I was in the parking lot. I mean, I've seen him in bad shape, but today he was right out of it. When he pulled in, he bumped into the back of my car. I got out, had a few words with him. We know each other for a while, so I'm aware of all his problems. So I was ready for anything. I had a knife with me, but fortunately didn't have to use it.
Ron McLean checking in here on the par 4 16th hole, and more terrible news for Jose Maria Olazabal. It's been a tough day here in La Quinta, a surprising day for the Spaniard coming off the impressive showing at the Masters. We see him lying 7 here, now approaching his 8th shot in the, oh goodness. Olazabal, back to you, Ben.
Well, golf is a funny game, and it's all come down to this. One Ed Robertson of the Bare Naked Ladies attempting a 60-foot putt for the win. And can you say deja vu? A magnificent putt here on 18, and you can see the pandemonium. And no one is watching Olathable's line yet again. And now Olathable with a 4-foot putt with the odd scuff mark. And it's well short of the mark. And with that, it's all over. Ed Robertson of the Bare Naked Ladies is the first champion of the Jose Marie Olathable versus the World Tournament. On behalf of Steve Melnick, Jim Nance, and Ron McLean, I'm Vin Scully saying so long from La Quinta, California.
Yes, the Jose Marie Olathable Invitational once again on the website, and we'll tweet that link out later on today. You're watching RonMikeRichards.com, specifically on YouTube. We will get that on the website afterwards because of the weirdness of the technical issues. You know it was Russell Graham. No, it's Russell Graham. Because we made fun of him the other day. And he's going, I'll get those guys back. So jealous. I don't know why he's so jealous. Looking at National Basketball Association, Kyrie Irving. Maybe that's why LeBron had the angry Arthur fist the other day. Did you see his response? I just like Arthur. I just like Arthur. Really. Kyrie all of a sudden, after the first two losses, and you have to remember the Gordon Hayward injury. Dave, I don't know if you've ever played when one of your teammates has gotten like a broken leg or something.
No,
I have. You know, Claude, our buddy Claude.
Yep.
He played. It was in a Pickering hockey tournament, and he went hard into the boards and broke his leg. When that happens, it does rattle a team. Now, this was a very public, this was a very graphic break for Gordon Hayward, who is going to be a significant piece for the Boston Celtics, and they lose their first two. So people are thinking, okay, well, how good is this team going to be? Well, Kyrie has taken it on himself to be a one-man wrecking machine. They knock off the Boston Celtics, the LA Lakers 107-96, but Kyrie Irving has looked amazing. So this is once again property of the National Basketball Association. Get a load of this performance last night.
Well, he played here in Boston.
Oh, no, you can't. You can't try to clean it up.
Irving, inside, on the reverse. Irving and Smart. Irving pulls back between the legs, spins, falling away. It's up. It's good. Kyrie Irving dazzling once again. Ball with a sweet move.
Well, there it is from last night once again. And how about this weird story, though, too? Now, this is about that basketball over in China where Lonzo Ball said, I needed to focus. I needed to focus on the game and not my brother's arrest. Now, his brother was arrested in China, allegedly for shoplifting? Seriously?
Hell yeah.
Wouldn't it be weird if it was for shoes? Wouldn't that be something?
You know what the funniest part was? There was that morning. There was a meme that was out that had a picture of his brother that says, "Stay in your cell," not stay in your lane.
Yeah,
stay in your cell.
Yeah, that's not good. But Raptors, by the way, get back at it tonight, and the East all of a sudden, it's like, are we saying there's a chance? Do we believe that Cleveland at some point is not going to get it together with the number of players they have on that team? Surely they can't be this bad for the entire year.
No, Cleveland's only 5-6 on the season, so it's not like they're a mile away. But I honestly don't anticipate Cleveland winning the Eastern Conference during the regular season, Mike. I think they're going to finish second. Hey, Rusty Bear, how's it going, bud? So. I'm thinking the Boston Celtics will end up winning it because they'll be the better regular season team, but Cleveland will be in that number 2 spot. They will catch up.
I don't think the regular season to a degree even matters
to them.
Like,
exactly.
like seriously.
Like they're not going to squeeze in the 8th spot, but they're not going to win it.
But even if let's say they go to the 8th spot, it's like years ago when the LA Kings barely got in at the 8th spot. You knew how good they were, and San Jose was like, finally. No, not so fast, Kowalski. It doesn't matter because you know they're not really an 8 seed.
Kowalski.
Yeah. So I suspect at some point it really shouldn't matter.
Yeah.
Oh, look what's do I see the...
Yeah, I see something. Yeah, of course. It's Thursday, right? He's a little bit late, actually. I wonder what the hell's taking him so long. Well, let's bring him in here. It's a little later than usual, but, downtown traffic here in Toronto, as always, exclusively to ronmikeRichards.com. It's Victor Newman with his passionate picks. Good morning.
Well, let me just tell you something. I was at the airport dropping someone off.
Oh.
They had to get back to Winnipeg. And if you can believe this, the man that she is with thinks he's got to have a goddamn drone. I said, how old is this man? 15? Anyways, I digress. By the way, I think you did a terrific job today.
Thanks, pal.
And yesterday as well. And so did Russell June Graham. Also did a great job as well. Do not forget about him. He's young.
That's his nickname, eh?
It's his middle name.
Oh, okay.
Right.
Not even okay, so it's birth. Okay.
David, you're babbling. Let me finish here, all right? Let's start with the Canadian Football League. The playoffs are underway.
Oh, boy.
Apparently, not the whole league makes it, but a couple of teams did not. But here's who did. Saskatchewan and Ottawa. That is what they call the damn crossover. Saskatchewan, they make me sick to my stomach. I've never liked that team.
Agreed.
And Ottawa, not much better, so I'll tell you what. If they think for 1 minute that this game is going to be over, you're damn crazy. I'm going to take the first half under at 26. Under 26, you almost double your money, and that's going to happen. Neither of these teams are going to score a lot of points. And the weather, it could be shitty. So you listen to me.
Good way of saying it, too.
I'm Victor Newman. You got that? Edmonton, -2.5 at Winnipeg. Here's the bad news for the Blue Bombers. Edmonton's damn healthy. I don't like that city either, but I'll tell you what. As much as I'm in love with people in Winnipeg, they're going to lose. And under field goal.
No.
Of course, I could be there at the game in a great big blanket.
Don't you own the team by now?
Yes, I do. With a beautiful woman and a childlike husband sitting home crying. Let's go to college football as well. South Carolina, -6.5. They're at home to Florida. Guess what, Gators? Stop doing that clapping things with your hands, imitating an alligator biting something. Because I'll tell you what, the only thing you're going to bite is get bitten in the ass by the South Carolina, and they're called the Gamecocks. Don't laugh, all right? That's the name. Cox.
Yes. C-O.
Let's talk about Clemson, all right?
Not C-O-X.
Clemson, -15.5 at home to Florida State, not a problem. Congratulations. There's another team that makes me sick, the Florida State Seminoles. You're going to lose. -15.5. To me, that's easy. Clemson, a very good team with a great defense. And finally, 2 more games. So it's not really finally. Georgia, -2 at Auburn. You got to be kidding me, Tigers. You're not going to win that game. I like the Bulldogs. As I say to the women, rough, rough.
Oh, you do, eh?
Yes.
Does that work?
You know I can do a flex arm hang.
Please.
Naked. And Northwestern -4.5. You got to take that right there, all right? They play Purdue. Purdue's terrible. Now you shut the hell up and do your job, David.
As always, good to hear from you, Victor. Victor Newman, exclusively heard here on ronmikeRichards.com every single Thursday. I don't know if I agree with him, Mike, with that Eskimo pick. That's more heart than anything.
Yeah, you're upset about that.
But you know what the weird part is? Being a Bomber fan, it's just weird to have them in the playoffs. Cause
people are looking around. What's today's date?
Because
Is there a Jets game tonight?
Their season was supposed to be over on Halloween. This is like playoffs.
I hope the Bombers can find something. The only thing I think is there is a ton of weapons when Edmonton got off to a great start,
and health-wise,
and now they're healthy.
The Bombers are not healthy.
Yeah.
The Eskimos are healthy. Like when you look at who the Bombers are missing on defense, the starting safety, a linebacker is out as well. It's those situations where you take off key pieces, and it's like, okay, you got to win this game. And considering how they kind of limped into the playoffs,
they did. I mean, even though they beat Calgary in the Frozen.
Yeah, but nobody was playing.
No, that's what I think too. Don't read too much into it. Michael O'Shea says that Nichols is going to be their starting quarterback, regardless of how practice goes. But I'll say this one thing: the CFL playoffs is one of my favorite times of year. I just love it. And
Agreed.
You know what? I think that the East, obviously, I think is for the Argos to lose. I hope at some point people realize that maybe there is football played in the city, but this is not a great football town, folks. I don't give a crap what it is, whether it's the Buffalo Bills coming up and playing. This just is not a great football town. So,
by the way,
best of luck to the Argos next week.
By the way, the CFL sending this out about 5 minutes ago. They have the finalists for the awards. I'll just go through a couple of them before we say goodbye.
Yeah.
Interesting enough, because you look at it and you go, really? Okay, so like I guess basically MVP of the league representing the West, it's Mike Riley, surprisingly, of the Edmonton Eskimos.
That's a strange pick this year, considering the year that they had.
Exactly, and he's up against Ricky Ray, the East nominee for most valuable player, which they call it something different in the CFL. It's
MOP.
MOP. That's is Ricky Ray. So that's kind of a surprise there. Top Canadian. I think this is an easy win for Andrew Harris of the Bombers.
Been fantastic.
He's been very good.
He's been good from day number one.
Yeah, I thought he was going to get some votes for most valuable player. Keep on going here really quick. Coach of the year. This is interesting. Dave Dickinson, friend of the show. Dave Dickinson.
He's a good man.
Yeah, and he's up against Mark Trestman. I think Dave Dickinson wins that.
Yeah, Mark Trestman's done a nice job as the organization has in trying to bring back respectability, but real tough in this town to even be recognized, to be honest.
Yep.
And when I say this town, I mean Toronto.
Exactly.
But Dave Dickinson, it's again, we say who's to lose. Well, it was all year long. It's been Calgary's to lose.
It was. Finally, Defensive Player of the Year, Alex Singleton of the Calgary Stampeders. I think it's his to win. Kyrie's Hebert, believe it or not.
Wow.
Montreal Alouettes. And Montreal having such a terrible season.
Yep.
This guy actually was a force, and this guy's been a force in the league for a while. We're looking at a future Canadian Hall of Famer in Kyrie's Hebert. He's the Eastern nominee. That was just handed to us about 5 minutes ago, so you'll probably hear more about that throughout the day.
Little bumpy today, the show, so therefore I know people are saying, where is it on the website, what has happened? Well, again, after that start, we're going to tweet everything out, so basically you won't miss anything. We'll get it all out there, including our good friend who was on the show today.
What? We just become best friends?
Yep.
You want to go do karate in the garage? Yep.
Of course.
It's time!
I'd like to thank our good friend Barry Davis for those memories of Roy Halladay. It's sort of rough when you get to know a guy as personally as some of these guys do, and Barry did get a chance to also talk to him in July. So we're going to tweet that out too, the link on that actual tribute show where you're going to hear some of that conversation. So we appreciate that this morning. Speaking of the fights, Carolyn Pierce covers UFC from Los Angeles. She's outstanding, a friend of Lisa Vargas, so that's going to be good. She's going to join us next week as well. And we also have, I believe, on Monday,
Doug Gilmore.
Doug Gilmore, folks. Doug Gilmore. Remember, subscribe and watch rawmike.richards.com.